thing. Feel free to get started whenever you're ready to.
All right, just give me 1 second, real quick, to get my tabs.
All right, perfect. So, welcome to our Sprint One review of our project, U Financial. Again, our goal is to create a website for students specifically in the university slash college who are trying to take a hold of their finances by just budgeting, whether it's by the week, the month, or the biweekly, just depending on how they get paid with their paychecks. And so, we'll go on to next slide is this introduction. My name is Miguel. I'm doing parts of back end, a little bit of front end. And then Philip here is also doing back end and front end.
Yep, I'm Caleb. I'm doing mostly the front end, but also some of the database management back end as well.
I'm Lauren. I'm doing design and some styling for the website, and then I'm working a little bit on the front end.
Sweet. And so, first thing we want to go over is just grooming the backlog. We're a perfect example of what it is with teams and timelines where there are going to be delays and sometimes mishaps or sometimes adjustments of scheduling, especially for teams and others who have extracurricular or circumstances outside. But we were still able to adapt, and so we were able to get our user registration settled in. So users are going to be able to log in and create their accounts, and we're going to be able to input expenses and their income so they can record everything. And so when it comes to organizing income and expenses, we are almost there at finishing it there. We just have some minor things to touch up. So we put that 60%, but we're not just quite there. But the next steps are for our custom budgets, our expense reports, and visual reports. So we want to make sure not only can our users customize a budget around their spending and around their income, but also they would need to visualize it so that as they're updating it, they can get reports and see the pie chart change and adapt. And so on to the next slide, we're going to go over is the sprint backlog for it. And so we're just going to be doing some UI work and doing some HTML mockup. A lot of the skeletal work has already been done. So the good thing is that we're not going to be having to remake a lot of things. Web pages have already been implemented, so a lot of it's just a little bit of back end and then some UI features. And with the expense reports, the same thing, just a little bit of SQL mockup. Same thing with input features, just to make sure we're connecting to the database.
So for our Kanban board, we've finished a lot. Like Miguel said, we're mainly on track. We got a lot of the skeleton stuff done. We just have a little tweaking to do on a few things. So far what's in progress is that we're doing the design of all the pages, so the coloring, the layout, the fonts. Um, right now I'm working on the inputting a logo that we made through AI. So I just have to tweak that a little bit to make it fit where it's supposed to instead of being this whole big taking up the whole page. So I have to tweak it in the right so it's in the center, which is really a pain. But so far it's kind of struggling, but we'll get there. And then a few other things that's in progress is we're working on organizing. The users are going to be able to organize their income expenses based on different timelines like weekly, biweekly, and by month. And then we've already finished a few things like user registration, login is already done. The skeletal framework, the rough designs, those are all done. We're just working on making it look pretty much. Um, and so the few things we have left to do are creating the custom budgets so that users can input spending to see their progress, working on getting those pie charts and the visualizations of what they're going to be able to input. And then the design for the pie charts. So we're going to have different color schemes for those, some buttons, and we just need to style those a little bit so it matches the theme of the whole website.
All right, so I'm going to go over kind of what we have done in some test cases. So this is kind of part of what Phil did, but unfortunately, since he's doing his band stuff, he can't be here. So going over it real quick, his objective was to ensure that the users can log in if their email and password exists in the database, and that they must have an @ and .com in their email that they're inputting. So he has some test steps that I'm going to show you right now, actually. I'll go. So here is our website right now, and this is where the test condition is. So if I just input a random email, like test, random password, try to log in, you're going to see that it requires an @ and an email address. And then a second step he also added is that if I add that, you still need a .com. So if I'm going to log in, then I need to use that too. But I haven't signed in yet using this email and password, so obviously it's not going to be found in the database. Going into some stuff that I have done, I've been working on this budgeting page. This is where you'll actually create your user budgets. If we click on new budget, one of the first things I had to do was actually make sure that all these will always be filled out, because if the user doesn't input anything for one of the buttons, it will mess with our form data. So I made it fill out as default no for all the questions we're going to be inputting. On this page, one of the edge cases I had to cover was that if they try submitting without inputting any banking data, then there's going to be an error, and it's going to make you submit some sort of banking data. So no checks for specifically what it is yet, but as long as you have something there, it's going to work. Another thing is if you go back through this form, saving the data that you have inputted, that's also something that I had to implement. So all your answers will be saved, and they actually do get removed if you leave the entire budget creation process. It will get reset. So that's something that we wanted. For this category allocation, for allocating how much money you want to put to different categories, I also added an edge case that makes sure that your inputs add up to 100. Because if they don't add up to 100, then you're not allocating all the funds in your budget, which we want them to do. So we have we've been testing some loading stuff, and this is another test, but that's basically it. We have fake loading going on. Really quickly, I'll go over some of how our files are organized. So in our front end, this is where all our React is being managed. We have in here some components. So this is just stuff that's being loaded on different pages. In here, this is all the stuff that's being loaded on our budget page. Over here, all our stuff in our account page that Phil's working on, and our about page. And that's pretty much it. The server loader down here contains our backend data. And that is pretty much our code.
So next up, we have a few things left for us to do. Like Caleb said, we have some fake loading going on, and we need to finish some of the test cases so that it pretty much just meets the end goal. There's a few design things, like you said, for like you could see on some of the pages where the errors came up in red. It doesn't really fit that color doesn't really fit the design. So there's a few button changes that I'm going to change the colors, a few font color changes. Obviously the logo is going to be in there, and then on the front page, the about page, everything, I made all the text stay white so that it didn't really it was a huge contrast between like black and blue or something like that. So the next steps are pretty much just finishing the styling and design, so that every page is like visually appealing, because nobody wants to be on a website that's ugly. So we're gonna fix that, and then, like Caleb said, we're gonna finish setting up the back end and make sure that everything's set for what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is our presentation.
Well, thank you so much, Angela. We do appreciate your time, and if you have any questions, let us know.
Yeah, I felt like you guys pretty much covered like everything that you guys should include, and it was a great demonstration. So I don't really have any more questions with that. So yeah, definitely only thing left to do is just make sure you upload that video to YouTube and go ahead and leave a link.